Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel that it's important for us to just take a brief time and recognize the situation that we have here in America today. Our national debt is unsustainable, and it threatens the fiscal and the national security of our country. We've talked about this in this committee before, but it's important for us to step back and look at the facts. The gross national debt surpasses $36 trillion, equaling a staggering 123% of our gross domestic product. This current level of indebtedness exceeds even World War II's level of 119%, and it's double the average level of indebtedness since 1946. According to the CBO, the debt will rise to $59 trillion by 2035, when it will equate to 123% of GDP if we do nothing today. The time for Congress to act is right now. There's never been a more critical time. The longer that we wait to rein in our out-of-control spending, the more significant the reforms will need to be to right-size our spiraling national debt. The primary driver of our unsustainable spending driving our national debt is our mandatory spending, which is spending on autopilot that continues without any congressional action. In order to address our national debt, we just have to rein in the runaway mandatory spending portion by reversing the Biden administration's spending spree, making benefit programs work for the most vulnerable, and ending cradle-to-grave dependence and reducing waste, fraud, and abuse. Energy and commerce plays a key role in our effort to right-size our mandatory spending and put our country back on a pathway to fiscal security, prosperity, and sanity. In fact, over the next 10 years, mandatory outlays for programs under the jurisdiction of Energy and Commerce will total $21 trillion. Hear that again, $21 trillion. The instruction to Energy and Commerce is to reduce the deficit by $880 billion, which is a mere 4% reduction in the committee's mandatory spending over the next 10 years. Congress often makes easy tasks difficult. I fear that we're trying to do that here today. But I'm confident that we can accomplish this small reduction in the rate of growth of mandatory spending programs under the Energy and Commerce Committee. Improper payments, which represent waste, fraud, and abuse, total a staggering $201 billion in fiscal year 2023 alone at departments under Energy and Commerce's jurisdiction. This equates to well over $1 trillion in 10 years. Energy and Commerce can meet their goal of reducing mandatory spending for programs under their jurisdiction by 4%, simply by reducing waste, fraud, and abuse. I've heard some skeptics here already this afternoon, but I suggest we give Energy and Commerce a chance. Striking the instruction for Energy and Commerce would remove this opportunity to make common sense reforms to critical programs to reduce our out-of-control mandatory spending. It's our duty to our children and our grandchildren to take this very moment to put our country on a path to fiscal security and prosperity, and that starts with taking the steps needed to reform our mandatory spending. I urge, Mr. Chairman, a no vote on this amendment, and also I have a submission for the record. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit a one-pager from the House Budget Committee listing the total amounts of mandatory spending, improper payments, and unauthorized spending within the Committee on Energy and Commerce's jurisdiction into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chair, I yield.